Good evening. I would now like to open the Special Board of Education meeting for March 18th, 2020. Due to the extraordinary situation of cautiousness in the face of the coronavirus COVID-19 outbreak, we are conducting our board meeting tonight via telephone and electronic medium and will not be meeting in person to conduct business. This authorization was given to us by the Governor of California, and we will do everything within our power to include the public at every appropriate opportunity while still maintaining both health and safety. I would now like to establish that we have a quorum for this meeting. And I guess I'll call your meeting and you will say here. Freddie Hodnett?
No, he's a student.
Okay. Mr. Lee?
Here.
Ms. Lock-Dawson?
Here.
Dr. Farouk?
Here.
Mr. Hunt?
Here.
And myself, I'm here. So we do have a quorum. And now I will ask for public participation on closed session matters.
Mrs. Alavi, there are none.
Thank you very much. Then we are going to be moving into closed session, and will be the potential litigation with the Encore petition. So now I will close this meeting and we will adjourn to closed session. Thank you. We are now coming back to our action agenda and reconvening open session. Just to repeat for the members of the audience, due to the extraordinary situation of cautiousness in the face of the coronavirus COVID-19 outbreak, we are conducting our board meeting tonight via telephone and electronic medium and will not be meeting in person to conduct business. This authorization was given to us by the Governor of California, and we will do everything within our power to include the public at every appropriate opportunity while still maintaining both health and safety. And now we are going to open our open session, and I report that we did not take any action in closed session. And now we are going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, we may have to work on that one. All right. I will now call upon the district superintendent for a report. Has anybody pulled a card to speak to this issue?
Or text in.
No, we have not had any cards pulled for this issue.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Hanson, please give your report.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank our Riverside community for the patience and solidarity you have shown this past week as we grapple with the changes of the coronavirus COVID-19 has wrought. The entire community has been impacted in one way or another, but none more than our schools. I also want to thank the RUSD team who have been working daily, some around the clock, to adjust our plans based upon daily new developments provided from our state and county leaders to ensure the safety of our students, employees, and families. Now more than ever, we need to communicate with each other. We will continue to provide frequent updates and information on our community and family hotline number, which is 951-778-5555, or our website at riversideunified.org, as well as our social media platforms. All community members are encouraged to check often because information is changing daily. In addition, I want to commend our Board of Education's decision to continue to feed our students at the very time they are facing the difficult decision of closing down all of our schools. Just today, I received a report that we fed 1,500 students breakfast and approximately 8,000 students lunch. Because of these high numbers, which are growing daily, we have modified our meal service to now include feeding our students during our regularly scheduled spring break, which is next week, March the 23rd through the 27th, at adjusted locations. Again, please visit our website for updated information or call our community hotline to find the specific meal pickup locations, as well as updated information regarding current learning materials available for students and new online learning opportunities which will become available for students within the next few weeks. As all of us maneuver this rough sea of change, again, we thank you. We will get through this together as an RUSD family and community. That concludes my comments this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Hanson. Okay, now we will go to board members' comments. Has there been a card pulled for board members' comments?
We just call them out.
No, there has not been. No card.
Thank you very much. We'll go in order. Dr. Farouk?
Yes, all I want to do is just express and echo Dr. Hanson's sentiments, just how appreciative we are of everybody pulling together and all the dedication and hard work from staff and the community to support our children and families. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hodnett.
Hello. Just want to say that hope everyone stays healthy and hope all the students out there enjoy this unexpected break.
Very good. Thank you so much. Mr. Lee.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. I just want to extend my gratitude to the cabinet, to Dr. Hansen, to the whole team who has rallied during this crisis and has put in the extra time, the extra effort to do their best to communicate with parents and staff and the community about what steps are in place and try to make sure we're all on the same page. It was really heartwarming to visit the district office on Saturday and see so many people leaving their families during this tough time to make sure that our families of our students have the resources and the answers they need to some of the questions that they're asking themselves. As a dad of 3 kids in elementary school, I can empathize with what our families are going through and the challenges of having students not at school. So to see everybody kind of rally together around this issue and try to find out what resources and services and food is available to our students is really, really heartwarming. So I just ask the community and the staff and everybody just to continue to show your appreciation to everyone's hard work and to give grace and patience as we try to navigate through this new environment. Because as Dr. Hansen said, we'll get through this together and we'll come out on the other side of this better and stronger. So thank you to everybody and their hard work.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Ms. Loft-Dawson?
Oh, I'll just echo what Mr. Lee and Dr. Farouk and Mr. Hodnett said. Honestly, just want to thank our staff and our teachers. Oh, my gosh, you guys have been doing Herculean work, and particularly our nutrition services. Just being able to have no regard for their own concerns. They're there serving our community, and I just want to thank them for that. And also, I just want to, for whoever's listening, I know this seems scary because it's uncharted waters, and as a society and a world community, we've never been through this before, but I want you to at least have faith in your RUSD leadership that they're doing a really good job at figuring out things as it comes flying at them. So just want to let folks know that they can have faith in RUSD leadership to get us all through this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Loft-Dawson. Mr. Hunt?
This reminds me when I went last at a graduation ceremony once, and the 2 people before me used the quotes I was going to use, so I had to come up with things. But I'll say the same thing. As the board is directed, Mrs. Alabi as president and myself as vice president are here at times to monitor and sit in on the leadership team discussions and that Dr. Hansen chairs with his folks. It is just so impressive, to use some of the terms I hear there, how quickly they have to pivot, because suddenly news that wasn't even around 30 seconds ago has changed something that they decided on 5 minutes ago. So just very impressive that their professional training and Dr. Hansen's leadership has done this. And I like, too, that, and I want to commend our young people who do the communications out there, seen a lot of it, and that's very important, and that we're being sensitive and cognizant of the concerns of not just our students and parents and guardians, but of our employees. We're all in new territory here, and that we're working with and collaborating with and commending Dr. Hansen's group again daily with our COE, with the county, the city, and just this morning, I believe Mrs. Alabi was with the Tony Thurman, our state superintendent. Not to overdo it, but I think it's appropriate. This is our 1965 in a different way. And we remember what Mr. Littleworth entitled his book, and it's appropriate now. No easy way. There is no easy way, but we'll get there. We don't quite know where there is yet and what it's defined by, but I have every confidence in my colleagues. I'm so fortunate to serve on with the board and the staff and the superintendent we chose and the staff he's put together. And I want to thank also, the PTA is helping us out there and others to get the message. So thank you very much. Lastly, to even expand on that message, I got a call today, and I'll talk to Mr. Alabi, Mrs. Alabi, and Dr. Hansen, but Lamar Outdoor Advertising for free would like to help us. We can put notices up on things on their digital boards, and so it just shows a community which is typical of Riverside and the surrounding area, the RUSD, wanting to support one of their oldest institutions and most stable. So thank you very much, Ms. Zalaby.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt, and thank you, board members, for your good comments, and I echo everything you've already said. And thank you again to all our USD family. We certainly appreciate every one of you. We'll now go to our consent agenda, and I will be doing name roll calls because, of course, I can't see your hands being raised. So I need a motion for the consent agenda.
Well, do we have to pull the first item for Freddie?
This is David Hanson. Actually, we have public input, Mrs. Alavi. We have one card.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Go ahead. Public input. I'm sorry.
Okay, we have one card. It is from a Julieta Fuentes. It came to us in Spanish, and so our district translator is going to read it in Spanish and translate it in English. And so, Sonia, would you do that, please?
Angela, that's the motion when you're ready.
The question is, me gustaría saber si realmente 3 minutos son suficientes para la limpieza de cada salón del distrito de Riverside. And the translation is, I would like to know if 3 minutes really is enough time for the cleaning of each classroom within Riverside Unified.
Mrs. Alavi, that's our only public comment.
Okay.
Can we, Ms. Alavi, can we have someone, that might be, I've heard other people say that, but let's get back to this lady on this.
Yes, I think we need to respond and put this in a communication piece so that we get the proper information out.
Yes.
Okay.
We have time.
Okay, now we will address the consent agenda, and I have a motion to approve by Dr. Farouk and a second by Mr. Hunt. So I'm now going to go through the roll call. Mr. Hodnett.
Abstain.
One abstention. Dr. Farouk.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Ms. Lock-Dawson.
Yes.
Mr. Hunt.
Yes.
And I say yes. So the consent agenda has passed. We will now go to our action agenda, and the first item is a recommendation to approve resolution number 2019-20-53 to grant authorization needed to take any and all necessary actions to prepare for and respond to the novel coronavirus, COVID-19, and to declare emergency conditions at district schools and offices. Ms. Kakish.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Alavi, and good evening to everyone. This is an item that we brought to you and we prepared as an extra protection to the district to continue to exercise full flexibility to ensure safety and flexibility to how we will continue providing services. So that's really the essence of this emergency resolution. As you declare it, it gives the opportunity for the superintendent or designee to exercise different areas of our services and have full flexibility. For example, some of the services that we might be doing, we don't have to go through advertising and do all of the public work contracts. So it kind of gives us an opportunity to waive some of these restrictions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kakish. I would like to know if there's any discussion between board members. If you could text, and I will call on you.
Angelo.
Okay, I don't hear anybody who needs to speak to this item, but it's been moved for approval by Dr. Farouk and seconded by Mr. Hunt. Is there further discussion on behalf of the board?
I had a question.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't know. My tech, it's Brent.
Go ahead.
I don't know. My text thing is not working.
No, I guess.
So, Mrs. Kakish, would this apply to, for instance, if it's difficult to find, would this also apply to ordering things? So if it was difficult to find toilet paper or hand sanitizer or hand soap from our vendors that are approved, that we could order from vendors outside our approved list?
Yes, that's exactly, actually, that was the main reason as we started to get short on some of the supplies that were needed. That's the essence of this resolution, gives us that opportunity.
And how long does this resolution last?
As long as the emergency at the state level. As in your case, as an independent board, you can declare that emergency resolution at any time you feel the district is still under that emergency case.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mrs. Alavi, this is Dr. Hanson. Just by way of order, I saw that Angelo texted in his approval and whatnot, but I think verbally, we should still have them verbally over the conference. I'll make a motion in a second.
Okay, that'll be fine.
I motion to approve. That's fine.
Second.
And Mr. Hunt seconds. If there is no further discussion, did you have a question, Mr. Hunt?
Yes, on this I did. Thank you, Mrs. Alavi. As we go down to the very bottom, Mays, where we're talking about alterations and performance of labor, is any of this in violation of or is it allowed under our bargaining agreements with our grounds people, et cetera, and so forth? Use of day labor, it says here.
Yes, it's actually given us flexibility in that area also, although I can go on record saying we will do a lot of this in collaboration with our bargaining unit.
Okay. So they will be the first called upon.
Yes, that will be the case.
Thank you, Mrs. Alavi.
Thank you. If there are no further comments, I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Hodnett?
Yes.
Dr. Farouk?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Lock-Dawson?
Yes.
Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
And I say yes. So that recommendation for that resolution does pass. We will now move on to our item 2, which is Encore Education Corporation Renewal Charter Petition. And I would like to know if anyone has issued a card to speak to this.
Yes, Mrs. Alavi, we have had 6 cards issued. I will let Dr. Lewis read each of those through the conference right now, and he'll just do one at a time. Because of the 6 cards, one's kind of lengthy, 5 are pretty short, but we should be able to do this within the 20 minutes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mrs. Alavi. This is Ryan Lewis. The first 3 comments, the commenter does not appear to have submitted an actual name. However, I'm going to read the comments. Number 1, please shut down Encore. It is a terrible school. Everything about the school is just terrible. Please, for the sake of the kids who go there, please, I'm begging, you shut down Encore. And I will read these exactly as written. The next comment, again, does not appear to have an actual name. Shut down Encore, for God's sake, it's killing people. The third comment, again, does not appear to have a valid name. Shut down Encore. The fourth comment, again, does not appear to have an actual name. Please, for the love of God, shut down Encore. Please, please, help me be set free. I hate that school. I don't want to be there, and so do many other kids who are attending there. But because of the lies Encore says about the non-bullying environment, my parents think it's an amazing school, but it isn't. Please, please, please. The next comment submitted by Ms. Shell. I wasn't able to attend this last meeting when Encore was there. Too many people. But my daughter was there since 9th grade year, which was last year. The math program put her behind, and she's still trying to catch up. Cyber High is the worst online learning ever. Her teacher at the time was not teaching math. The dance program was not great either. They would teach wrong technique and never stretch the kids properly. They fired a lot of great teachers that could have done great things there, both dance and academic. My daughter has an IEP and never had a good aide to help her. They didn't take the time to help her or the other kids in her class. When I would call or email, I never got a response back from anyone at that school. Also, the buildings these kids are in are unsafe. My daughter would sometimes miss school because she had a lot of allergy attacks from being in certain buildings there, and I feel they are not safe. The air conditioning would never work right either. When making your decision tonight, please consider the safety. And then the last comment that is fairly lengthy is written in by Jane Witters. Hello, I am a student at Encore High School for the Arts. I believe it would be best that Encore is closed down for many reasons. One being how unsanitary it is. The bathrooms are usually never restocked. In one of the buildings, the bathroom is so small and smells awful. The wallpaper is literally falling from the wall and usually is a mess in there, and has not changed from the 3 years I've been there. Not to mention the actual buildings, not just the bathrooms. In one case, there was a dead rat in one of the buildings, and it smelled so awful. They didn't remove it until 3 days. It smelled bloody awful for weeks. But of course, WASC never catches it because they're perfect when they come over. To continue on, for the first semester, our walls were bare and had nothing. But when we heard that WASC was coming, suddenly our walls were filled with posters and ripped out the pages from old yearbooks. Plus, suddenly our bathrooms were stocked, and they were promoting wearing our lanyards. It was all an act now because they couldn't care less if we wear our lanyards and have posters up from 2 years ago that shows we don't promote anymore. In addition, Encore is very biased to the conservatories category of classes and who they fund. They love giving funds to our wonderful ambassadors, who aren't really wonderful, who could care less about the visual arts, consistent of drawing, painting, sculpture, photography, film. I'm in the visual arts conservatory and have art classes and photography classes and get first-hand look into the unfair treatment. For starters, Mrs. Gribbett took all the photography funds and used it on other things and left us with nothing. Our teacher has to use her own items, cameras, studio sets, etc., and taking the risk that if it gets damaged or broken, it won't get replaced by the school. Dance Conservatory gets the luxury of getting a lot of field trips and performances while we get nothing. Speaking of Mr. and Mrs. Griffin, they do not come into campus often. Most of their funds go to the Hesperia campuses because their son is there. The school needs too much improvement to function as a school, and I believe should close down. End of comments.
That concludes our public comments to this item, Madam President.
Thank you very much. We have a presentation that Dr. Ryan Lewis and Dina Harris from BB&K are going to give, and they will outline an agreement that has been reached with Encore to see if this is something that the board would like to consider. Dr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mrs. Alavi and Board of Trustees and Dr. Hansen. Dina Harris and I are both here in person. I'm going to take us back and explain what has brought us to this point for anybody in the public that may not be unfamiliar. Going back 30 days to date, Dina and I, on behalf of Riverside Unified School District, brought a recommendation to our Board of Trustees regarding a charter school petition that was submitted by Encore School for the Arts. At that time, it was staff recommendation to our board to consider denial on said petition. Through much discussion amongst our board, we were tasked to take 30 days, work collaboratively with Encore Legal Department, Encore Board of Trustees, Encore CEO, and Encore back office staff in regard to debt and liabilities to see if we can reach some type of alternative agreement to keep the school going for the large number of students who attend and showed their appreciation for school, Encore School for the Arts. So at that point, our team immediately began to work collaboratively between Dina Harris, myself, their legal counsel, their audit team, their board, our governance team, as well as those representing as Dr. Hansen's designees. We have brought forward this evening to the board a memo of understanding that is one supported by Encore current Board of Education, as well as a staff recommendation for board consideration. At the end, you will be asked to consider a resolution, but for clarity, it does lie with the decision-making of you and the Board of Trustees as to whether or not to grant or accept the resolution or take action on the resolution, and if you do not, we'll provide an alternative option at that time. So if there aren't any questions, I'll proceed with highlighting the memo of understanding, if I may. Hearing none, I will go forward. So the main changes in the memo of understanding will begin on section 5 under terms. What we are proposing as part of the memo of understanding is that there will be a lone governing board that will function and preside over the Encore School of the Arts in Riverside. What we have reached understanding in the memo of understanding is that our Board of Trustees or their designee will appoint 3 members of that 5-member board, and Encore Corporation Oversight Board will appoint 2 members of that board. That 5-member board will have full autonomy to run the Riverside School in, I guess I'll say, isolation from Encore Corporation. That 5-member board will be responsible for all functions regarding academics, finances, personnel, contracting, and day-to-day operation as applicable by charter law. If that 5-member board chooses to enter in any type of agreement with Encore Corporation for advisory role of anything of that nature, that will be left to that 5-member board. And again, of that 5-member board, Encore Corporation will appoint 2 members, and we will appoint, as our board of trustees will appoint 3 members of that board. The other things outlined by the MOU include insurance and indemnification for our new board members, stating when they take the new governing board office as of July 1, they will be covered under their new seats. Also, the new board will go in full training by July in all of the areas that we found as staff. The current board was showing concerns, including but not limited to Brown Act, Conflict of Interest, Public Record Act, and anything else deemed by our legal counsel or oversight team as necessary. Moving on to school administration. Part of the MOU will identify a new management team to run the new Riverside campus. That team will exist as of July 1 with a new executive director and a new chief business officer that will be hired by the new governing board of the new 3 members appointed by our Board of Education and the 2 members appointed by Encore Corporation. Those 2 members, those 2 new positions, the 2 new employees, those positions will be recruited with the support from the Riverside Unified School District Human Resources Department during this transition, knowing we have the capacity and we have the expertise to fill those positions and help advertise while the new board is being put into place. But the new 5-member board will be the ones hiring those 2 new positions, and they will become effective July 1. Those 2 members, the chief business officer and the executive director, they will be responsible reporting to the new identified board, and they will handle all day-to-day operations that happen at the Riverside campus, as well as the current positions of chief executive officer and chief operating officer. They will be eliminated for Encore Riverside. The CEO and COO currently held by Mr. and Mrs. Griffin will not hold a decision-making position within Encore Riverside. They will return to Encore Hesperia, and they will maintain their role of Encore Corporation. Under academics, knowing we are in a different state that we did not see coming 30 days ago, we had allowed for the 2021 dashboard, California dashboard, to be the first marker. That will maintain, but also we've outlined in here that knowing we are in, is number 4 of Part C, modifications to the criteria with the current coronavirus pandemic that we are all facing. We have put in language that the parties will agree to negotiate in good faith any academic indicators once we resume school full time. So we will come back to the table and figure that out since we are in a new era. If Encore Riverside does not meet those goals set in 2021, the existing Board of Trustees on behalf of Riverside will have the right to issue a notice of closure. The next part of the MOU, just highlighting key points under fiscal concerns. With great work on behalf of Carl Yoder and the back office team, they have created a plan to have Encore within 2 years working their way out of debt, and they've established 6-month benchmarks. If those benchmarks are not met for whatever reason, we will again have the right to issue closure based on the fiscal concern. We do believe, however, that corrective plan, if everything is met, will allow them to work out of the debts they have incurred. The next piece is a forensic audit. If our board chooses to agree to this MOU, we would like to work with either a FICMAT or a FICMAT-like audit firm to come in and do a complete forensic audit of Encore Riverside, just to make sure there is nothing that with debts and liabilities that would prevent them from being successful. If you choose to take action on this resolution, then we will begin as early as possible working through Maze Kakeisha and her team to have that audit taking place. Moving forward, a notice of closure by district. Encore Corporation has agreed to waive revocation proceeding if any of the benchmarks are not met, and they have to, and our board does choose to move forward with notice of closure. A new piece of language as well is we have a 1% oversight fee that our district does charge Encore corporation, we have added language that if for unforeseen circumstance we exceed that 1%, anything for legal fees, audit, or et cetera, we now have the right to bill back Encore Corporation for those fees. And I think the last part, based on Encore Corporation and by our recommendation, they believe it would be best for the Riverside Performing Arts School, currently known as Encore, to change name. We would like the new board, once identified, to have a role in that. We do agree that that would probably be best to separate the branding of the two schools, so that is also outlined in the document. And I think the last thing that we'll list is charter revisions. We would make the request of Encore, the new Encore team, the executive director and the chief business officer and the new governing board, to go through and rectify all necessary changes as identified by our oversight team in their Encore petition. And we will give them till December 15th, 2020 to do that. And I believe that is it as far as the MOU. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Thank you. We have several people who have questions. Mr. Hunt.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Lewis, for that. Let me understand something. So under F, I believe it is. No, well, further restricting. J, I'm sorry, GJ, yeah, Patricia's it. It says in the event that the district is not satisfied with the progress being made by Encore Riverside pursuant to the corrective plan. So eventually the Griffins are coming back to run this school?
No, sir. The way it is written is that Griffins in their current capacity or their current charter will remain as part of a transition team between now and June 30th, 2020. At that time, the Griffins will depart as of July 1. You will have a new governing board, and we will have a new executive director and a new chief business officer that will be responsible for the day-to-day operations of Encore Riverside.
And let me, this is Dina Harris, if I could clarify. The Encore Corporation originally was the petitioner and established the charter school, or at least was the petitioner. They are currently and will continue to be the operator, quote unquote, for the charter school under Ed Code 47604. And so when here it says that the district reserves the right to approach Encore about restructuring, the idea there is that the proposal would be to separate at that point. So they would not be the operator, and instead they could be a district-dependent charter school.
So when does that begin? I have about 5 questions. When does that begin? This separation?
So this is an option to approach the charter school the corporation, the operator, down the road if the charter school, as renewed, is not making the progress that you would like to see. If renewed, Encore Riverside, the charter school would continue to be operated by the nonprofit public corporation, but through this new board.
All right. I'm not crazy about it. Dean, as long as we have you there, when we look at what is Griffin Entertainment?
I don't know that there's anyone here that knows the answer to that question, unless.
Well, is there an attorney there?
Find it in forensic.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is the attorney? I'm going to put him on the spot. Is the attorney there? Can I answer this, please?
Yes, he's coming.
Yeah, Mr. Hunt, he's walking up. If you could introduce yourself to the.
Hi, Mr.
Thank you,
Hunt.
Dr. Hanson. Yes, sir. Hi.
This is Wayne Strum with Young Men in Core. I actually do not know the answer to your question.
All right. I'd like to, and as Ms. Alavi points out, the forensic, but I'd like to know that. I'd like to know who is leasing and what is our responsibility. I understand they have 4 to 5 Toyota SUVs that they've leased for their ambassador program, and I think for the Griffins and I think their daughter there to drive as cars. I'd like to know about that. Is that going to be put on us as well? And thank you. And what is, well, I'd like to find out what is going to, well, you know, we're out of school, so that's probably a mute question, though. But if it was, you know, the ambassador program we heard about earlier, my understanding from you, Dr. Lewis, they did 142 performances last year in 182-day school year. So I'd like to understand what plans there are for that, if any, though I know we're out. And on July, we know that, and if the either Mr. Trump can answer this, we know that Encore Riverside, the Griffins, had sold their receivables. I assume it was in return for that $3 million loan or whatever. Is the money available then to finish out this school year under normal circumstances, et cetera?
Okay, this is Dr. Hanson. Thank you, Mr. Hunt, for those questions. There's three parts. Let's go over one at a time. The first one, Dina can talk about.
Yeah, one thing I just want to make sure is really clear is you use the word, are we responsible for that, or is that something we being the district, the district is not going to be operating this charter school. The district is as oversight under this agreement, is requiring them to restructure it, but it still would be operated by Encore Corporation, but removing certain persons from the day-to-day operations and establishing a new board. So I just want to make sure it's clear that it's not the district who would assume any responsibility or liability or anything for any of those actions.
All right, so thank you. I mean, that was based on our last meeting. Ms. Kaki's talking about the indebtedness, and
right.
So after on July 1, is the ADA already obligated to that loan, or is the ADA beginning July 1? Is it released? I want their attorney.
So this is Carl Yoder from DMS.
Thank you.
The ADA that's starting in July is going to be pledged to repaying the cash flow that's covering payroll this spring. But over the coming year, we're going to continue to reduce the amount of debt and shorten the period of, it won't be receivables, but shorten the period of repayment. The MOU outlines that we'd be reducing debt about 20 to 25% every 6 months. Within 24 months, we'd be debt-free. But the ADA that starts in July would currently be pledged towards the spring payroll, spring 2020.
Okay, and the last part to that question dealt with cars that they have leased, and Dr. Lewis has an answer for that.
So, we've heard that comment several times. We have been unable at this point to come up with an answer. However, that will be part of the FCMAT audit that we will be identifying. The three areas you've brought up will be the three keyed areas on our behalf, as well as other areas for the FCMAT audit. So we look forward to getting back to you with an answer once that audit's complete.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Thank you, Mrs. Allaby.
Thank you. Ms. Locke-Dawson.
Yes, thank you. I just have a question for Dr. Lewis, and perhaps, I'm not sure if anybody else can answer this, but if we do approve this MOU, what does that look like going forward? Perhaps you can paint a picture for us with respect to the next academic years, absent the coronavirus. But is it business as usual? Are they in the same facilities? Are they, recruiting the same? Please just let me know, just kind of paint a picture for us.
I can do my very best, Mrs. Locke-Dawson, based on my current knowledge of oversight and what I've been part of, but I don't have the day-to-day operation knowledge, but I think I can paint you a picture to answer the question.
That's fine. I think it's just for the benefit of us to understand, how this is different from what's been going on, what it looks like in the future, and to the folks that have complained about conditions and the way things have happened, what changes with the approval of this MOU?
So that's an outstanding question, and one we've actually talked as a team. When I say a team, it includes the team from Encore that we've been part of. So I think several things. Number one, the day-to-day operation by a new executive director and by a new chief business officer to bring a level of expertise and education background to Encore Riverside is something I'll use the word I believe will allow the school to begin to function more of what I would call it as an appropriate learning environment. That's number one. Number two, to facilities, there will need to be facility need. We're aware of that. That'll be part of the new governing board that they will walk in and have to help solve that issue. We're aware of the concerns. The good news is, in what I believe we've built as more of a collaborative effort between Encore Riverside and our district, we will be able to possibly increase our oversight duties to help them maybe a little bit more in this transition time, to help them land on their feet. Because the bottom line is, I believe, the commitment that we're asking our board to make is not to Encore. The commitment we're asking our board to make is to the 600 students that are at Encore that have founded a place that they seem to flourish in. So the commitment is to develop a school. We know the academics are going to need to be overhauled. We're well aware of that. Our academic team is able to provide recommendations. We know we're going to have to rescope just the instructional day that is currently run, because as you look at their master schedule and their costs, they are operating in what I would say is a very difficult way to sustain monetarily. So there will need to be changes to Encore Riverside. What we are supporting is hiring a team with the educational knowledge that can come in and restructure a school that has students who believe in it to allow them to be more successful. So you will see a lot of changes in a year, but changes that I believe will bring a balance of the academic and the arts back to a school with a new leadership that will allow it to restart.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Do you also anticipate maintaining a block schedule that allows for the arts instruction in the same way that it's being offered now?
I think the creativity that Encore has put together is well done, but again, we have to go back to looking at, with the new executive director and the new chief business officer, what is able to be kept with expenses in mind, and also what is able to be balanced with the need for what we've heard many times is academic concerns. So there are many public schools that run a 4x4 block, and they do it well. So I don't see necessarily a mandated change either way, but as a new governance team, they have to figure out what's best for their school.
Got it. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Lockdawson. Mr. Lee?
Thank you, President Alvey. I appreciate it. First, I just want to really thank the team from Encore and the team from RUSD for making what seemed like an impossible decision possible by giving us 30 days to try to work out a scenario that was putting students first, the students at Encore and the staff at Encore. And I'm going to be careful not to disparage or pass any judgment on the admin team at Encore, because I'm going to assume by their actions, by appearing at the table and helping to craft this MOU or be amenable to this MOU, shows that their intentions are good and that they heard from their students and their staff, and they're realizing that it's important to put maybe their needs aside and putting their students' issues first. So I really want to commend them for coming to the table and getting to this negotiation point. I also want to applaud them for the vision and the environment they created at Encore. I think all of us that were at the last meeting, and the emails that we've received and the letters that we've received, we've all been impacted and moved by the environment that Encore has been able to create for their students. And I know as a trustee, creating that safe, what's the right word? I'm trying to think, that safe, supportive environment where students can thrive is something that we want to create for every school. So I think that there is possibly something we can learn from this experience, but I don't want to miss the opportunity to thank both sides for coming together, and our legal team for coming together to try to make this agreement potentially possible should the board agree to go forward. I do have a couple questions though, and a little bit has been touched upon about Mrs. Alvey's last question in regards to facilities. You know, I've seen pictures that have been sent to me in regards to their facilities that seem substandard. So I would imagine, you know, being part of an operations committee and looking at how much things cost to improve facilities, it's incredibly expensive. So I mean, what's realistic in terms of making sure the facilities are up to snuff, safe, conducive to learning, where they currently are? That's my first question. Number two, I believe that Encore had a board meeting since we had our last meeting, and I would just like to hear about how that board meeting went and what occurred. Number 3, what is the current enrollment at Encore? There was some concern that parents were taking their kids out of Encore and re-enrolling them in homeschool or other programs. So just want to know where we are on enrollment at Encore. And then last, as part of their renewal petition, they had stated that they were, to control costs, we're going to cut enrollment, I want to say by almost 30%, 25%. And to do that, they were going to cut their visual arts program. So I'm just curious as to any more information on any of those items.
Okay, Mr. Lee, thank you. This is Dr. Hanson. We'll answer those one at a time. The first one on facilities, we have one of our guests from Encore, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Yes, this is Carl Yoder from DMS. In answer to the question about facilities, currently Encore is spread across multiple campuses, several smaller campuses in downtown Riverside. For next year, they will be consolidating into a single campus, one of their existing locations, and will have an enrollment of approximately 650. When we had originally, this is jumping ahead to the fourth question, which I think I can address. Originally, it was going to be a substantial drop in enrollment from current levels. My understanding is that current enrollment is at the 660 to 680 range. So consolidating to that single site, 642 I just learned. Consolidating to that single site will not result in a drop of existing enrollment, and it will presumably solve some of the issues in multiple rented facilities that Encore has faced in the past.
Thank you. And so, Mr. Lee, I think the questions dealing with facilities, and your third one on current enrollment, and your fourth one on renewal petition about cutting enrollment may have just been answered. Let's go on to last board meeting, and then we can come back to see if we need to clarify anything. Can you introduce yourself and speak to our last board meeting?
Sure. Hello again, this is Wayne Strumper with Young Million Corps. The Encore board did meet last night, and they discussed and approved the draft MOU so that if tonight this board approves it, it'll be, the Encore board accepts the MOU and wants you to know that they are on board and ready to go. There was also discussion on the loan at that board meeting tomorrow night. There is another scheduled special board meeting to deal with 2 resolutions. One resolution for the loan, and the other resolution is to approve the new structure that if tonight the board approves it, they will then approve a resolution to go forward with the new structure, and there's a number of issues that are in the MOU that the resolution covers.
Thank you. Trustee Lee, did we cover all of your questions, or is there some that we did not do?
I got a couple follow-up questions. So one, in regards to the facility and going down to one campus, which facility is it? And then number 2, I just need some clarity on the visual arts program that's currently being offered at Encore, if that will continue to be offered next year.
Trustee Lee, I don't know that anyone here can answer that facility-specific question.
What's the address of the consolidated?
We're checking, Trustee Lee. And while we're checking, Trustee Lee, Dr. Lewis will come back and address the VAPA part of your question.
Mr. Lee, this is Ryan. I would encourage our team to, we're going to immediately begin, if the board chooses to take action, to recruit a position alongside Encore for the executive director and for the chief business officer. Those are the decisions that I think they're going to have to really get into the petition and get into the rationale behind it during this transition to best make a recommendation on what to move forward with. So in regard to the reduction of visual and performing arts, I would like to hold that until the new team is here and they can better understand the justification and maybe provide an alternative rather than canceling and consider a different direction. But I would like to wait until they're on board.
Okay. Just clarity. I just want to make sure, it could just be a slip of the tongue, but Dr. Hanson and Dr. Lewis both said it. You said visual and performing arts. So I'm just speaking to the visual arts portion. Their petition said that to get their enrollment down to a more manageable level to cut costs, they keep using the performing arts offerings and the conservatories in the performing arts, but that they would get rid of visual arts, and that would, I'm guessing they jumped to the conclusion that should they not offer visual arts, that their students who were in those programs would no longer continue at the school.
You're correct, Mr. Lee. Thank you for catching that. That is, in my line of work, we put visual and performing arts under VAPA together in every day. You are correct. That was a slip. The visual art component being reduced, you are correct, is in their petition. That is something we would ask the executive director and the new chief business officer to revisit and look at. I apologize for putting those two together. That was my error.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I just want to make sure that parents and students who are currently enrolled at the school site who may be in the visual arts are aware that that's not set in stone until the new board, should we pass this MOU, come together with a new executive director.
Thank you, Trustee Lee. We will absolutely follow up on that. We now have an answer to the first question on facilities. What would that be? So you can introduce yourself again.
Carl Yoder again from DMS. The address of the facility that's being consolidated is 3666 University in downtown Riverside.
Thank you. That's all for me.
Thank you very much. Dr. Farouk.
Thank you, President Alavi. I want to echo the comments from Trustee Dawson and Trustee Lee just about the sincerity of all parties to work through this for the interest of the students and to try to come up with an approach that creates more accountability, but at the same time, again, ensures that the students continue to have opportunities there. So I want to express my appreciation. In regards to my questions were actually addressed by Trustee Lee. The only general comment I'll make is I know that this MOU is has a wide range of scope in terms of all the different things that it's going to address. At the same time, even though they're anecdotal and specific, I hope that some of the comments that were raised by our public comments and some of the emails that we received, that those individual concerns are also taken into account and recorded for the next board, for the local board to do that if the board chooses to proceed with this MOU. That's all.
Dr. Farouk, as you mentioned that, all the folks here from Encore are shaking their heads up and down. We'll make sure that we follow through with that request.
Thank you. Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, Mrs. Alavi. I have just a few questions to tag on to the leases and some other things, and campus security. So as they consolidate down, Mr. Yoder, I know some of those leases, I know a couple of people that own them, extend well beyond. Who accepts the liability for those leases being terminated?
So this is Carl Yoder again. So in answer to your question, we have been looking at the leases. The obligation to repay the leases would remain with Encore Riverside. There wouldn't be, as far as I know, there isn't any talk on the table, and I'd recommend against it, of breaking a lease and not paying a landlord. But the Encore Riverside School would be responsible for the remainder of the lease or the buyout. It would not fall back on any other school.
Okay, and then lastly, it's my understanding, and it may be anecdotal, but I know they started out with, because my office is down there, they had 12 of the campus security monitor type people. I believe they're down to 5 they've cut. And though the county may be moving homeless people to a central area based on this whole coronavirus outbreak, but I am concerned, fellow board members and everyone listening, that I see a lot more homeless now. Just the last few weeks, even around my office, I'm right there by City Hall. What is the plan to, if at all, to increase the security for the safety of these young people?
It's Carl Yoder again. I'll echo what Dr. Lewis had said. The new executive director and the new board are really going to take point on determining that level of operational detail, but I'm comfortable, given the district's involvement with those selections of both the board and the executive director, that it will be to the district's satisfaction. Does that address your question?
Thank you very much. I will make a comment here because I don't see any other people lining up right this minute. I know that there are a lot of unanswered questions because we're the kind of board who would like to have everything down in black and white. But to a certain extent, the process of a charter school must give their boards the ability to make these decisions. And I think what they've done in this MOU is created a board where we have some input. And I think that is where all these decisions are going to be made about the building, how the building is taken care of, the visual arts, the curriculum. And to a certain extent, we are now going to have a little bit of faith in this new board that will come together, and the new CEO and the new COO. And we are going to say, it is our intention that you pull this together for the sake of the children who are enjoying this experience and who really want to succeed in the arts. And I think that by doing so, I think we will see very quickly whether or not this is the direction that they can push the school in, because we have many stopgaps that will check it as it's growing to see that they're meeting certain benchmarks. So I do feel fairly confident in the team. I want to thank Dr. Lewis and Ms. Harris. I think you've put in a lot of good hours. Thank you to the Encore team as well. I know you've tried very hard and have been very open with the team and working something out.
Mr. Lee.
I now have, I'm going to be asked for a motion. Mr. Lee.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve staff recommendation to approve the MOU between Riverside Unified School District and the Encore Corporation.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Right. Mrs. Alavi?
Yes.
I'm sorry. This is Dr. Hanson. Dina Harris, our legal, needs to insert something right here, please.
Sure, yeah. If I could suggest that the motion be to adopt the resolution. The resolution adopts both grants the charter renewal and approves the MOU in one action. So that would be my recommendation.
Sure, I'll amend my motion to include the approval of the resolution.
Thank you.
I second that. I'll second.
Ms. Lock-Dawson, second, and I'm going to do a roll call. Mr. Hodnett.
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Farouk.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Ms. Lock-Dawson.
Yes.
Mr. Hunt.
Yes.
And I say yes. So this has now been passed. Thank you very much to all of the people who contributed so many hours to making this come about. And now we will move to the final item of our agenda items for future meetings. Has anybody pulled a card for that?
No, there have been no cards pulled for items for future meetings.
Okay, then I will open it up to our board members. Is there anyone who has an item for a future agenda?
In this day and time, I don't know, but I just want to, if I may, Mrs. Alvey, just going back to the resolution and all we talked about earlier, I want to be sure that the explanation that goes out to the parents and, taking this long resolution and putting it in understandable for the kids too, and simplified, that it be a collaborative and not undertaken by the Griffins or Encore or Riverside itself.
I'm sure they're listening to us as we pass along that information. I don't have anyone that has texted in to make any kind of future agenda item, so I will now adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for listening in.
We're adjourning at 6:28.
Thank you.
Thank you.